Welcome back to the PI show. We're with the lovely and one and only vivacious Vivian.
Hello, Tony. Thank you very much. Hello, guys. Great show again tonight. Very interesting and scary, though, talking about all of the implications around sporting injuries and also, kids in sport across the main, given that that's going to happen
Everything
to me
magnifies
soon.
when you have children.
Well, yes, I'll know about that in the not too distant future. It's a bit scary. I'm in the hotspot again this week, the thorn between two roses. But let's get into the questions, shall we? Thanks again for everyone who writes in every week. Tonight's question is from Sultan, and he writes, how can I sue a work cover agent when they conduct surveillance on the wrong person who is alleging to be me? He also asks, can the other person who has been wrongly videotaped and is under surveillance sue for invasion of privacy? Thank you. I follow your show all of the time. What do you have to say about that, Tony?
Viv, I don't know how he can sue for the simple fact that what's his damage? I think he's lucky. They got the wrong bloke, so it can't possibly affect him. And the fella that's been wrongly taped or followed and they've got surveillance on him wouldn't possibly know he's been recorded. So I really can't see how there's a claim for either one of them.
Look, it's an interesting question. It opens up a can of worms. That can of worms is, how can they make the mistake? Unless it's your twin brother, you would think there's some distinctive attributes of different people. I have been in court and watched a man who was 110 kilos and 6'3". They put up the film, and there was the person who was supposedly him driving his truck, who was 5'6" and 80 kilos. Obviously different. Yeah. Obviously the people who did the surveillance didn't do their homework. There are guidelines, though. If people are out doing surveillance, they're supposed to be registered agents and they're supposed to be following a set of guidelines. Talking
about guidelines, sorry, Vivian.
That's right.
You'll find that the people that, when they go to follow someone at a person's house, for example, they probably have to check in at the local police station, otherwise they'll think you're a stalker.
Correct. Well, I was just going to ask the question for people who don't know, like myself, how is it, do they actually get a photograph image, like CSI, and they present it to one of the agents and say, follow this man, or how does it work?
They'll give a description and probably photographs if they can get their hands on them, I suppose.
Or alternatively, they have a set place to go. A person will be going to have a medical examination by a specialist. They'll have a 2 o'clock appointment. At the 2 o'clock appointment, lurking in the shadows somewhere nearby will be the surveillance operative who will be there to see that person arrive.
Mind you, torn from home.
Yes, but they should be able to get it correct.
We actually had a question on this not so long ago, and the implications around being followed is quite daunting for a lot of people. So
yeah, people are quite frightened because they think they're being followed by who knows who.
Well,
but what the person could do is ring up the local police station and see if anyone's checked in to follow them. So that's one way to cover yourself.
So your advice in summary, guys, would be to?
Ring up the local police stations, just tell them what's happening, and that way you'll be sure of your situation.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you. So this next question comes from Sylvie in Cheltenham. She says, Dear Tony and Marty, a while ago I was stuck in an elevator at work with 3 of my fellow employees. The elevator got stuck for over 20 minutes. I have been claustrophobic for as long as I can remember, and I'm not sure what possessed me to enter into the elevator at this point. I often relive the accident in my mind and now suffer from panic attacks, and I have been diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder. I had to quit my job because going to work every day just made me more and more anxious. I'm unsure if I have a claim against anyone for medical expenses and general suffering. Does the fact that I was at work make a difference? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Sylvie.
Yeah,
Tony.
I think she'd have definitely no fault benefits, which is medical and like expenses and also loss of income. But it sounds like she's had a pretty severe reaction to this, because I've heard of a lot of instances where people were being caught in elevators. I've also heard of an instance where someone was actually caught in an elevator that actually crashed. Now that would be something that would be pretty daunting, and you'd think you'd have serious consequences flowing from that, especially psychiatric. Yeah. But I would have thought that this kicks in the principle of also eggshell skull, Marty, which, as we all know, you take your victim as you find them, and if you can get an extra step of proving that the elevator company's done something wrong, where they've failed to properly maintain the elevator or failure to check it on a regular basis and things like that. Or it could be that the elevator's too old. Who knows? In
I'll
those
go back to
circumstances,
my basic principle though, Tony. Lodge a claim form.
Yep.
If it happened at work,
Yep.
lodge a claim form. Get the process started.
Yep.
Get some legal advice if you're confused. Here is a person who is anxious, who has had to step out of their employment environment. Here we've got a person that may have statutory entitlements not only for medical and like expenses, may also have an entitlement to rehabilitation, may also have an entitlement to psychiatric care for a period of time until they're better. As you say, if somebody else is at fault, or there's an issue of liability, that may then, in due course, take them to the issue of damages.
but in any event, because of the reaction Sylvie's had, you'd think she might be on weekly payments for a
You would hope
pretty
so.
long time.
I mean, the other fact is that
indefinite
she
period.
said she'd suffered anxiety and claustrophobia prior to entering the lift on this occasion. Is there any contributory component here?
No. What happens is this: if she's kick-started something that she had in the past, she's still entitled to no-fault benefits. It might kick in on the issue of damages down the track if she ever gets a serious injury certificate. That's right. So I would have thought that no, that's not a very big consideration.
So in summary, she probably should seek advice from a
think she should
lawyer at
seek
this point in
advice,
time. All right, thanks guys. Our third and final question this week comes from Fiona in Glen Waverley. She says, "Hi, I just had a quick question. My son recently obtained his Ps and now he seems to drive everywhere, especially at night. There have been so many reports recently in the news about drunk drivers killing people on the roads, and I'm extremely worried. I think as many parents are. God forbid he gets injured, as we won't be able to cover his medical expenses as we do not have any hospital insurance. If a person is over the limit, does that automatically mean that they have been negligent? If not, does the TAC scheme I've heard you discuss cover medical expenses?" Looking forward to hearing from you, Fiona. Sounds like a question for you, Marty.
It does. It's my favourite topic. The Transport Accident Act is there to cover people who are injured in transport accidents, which I've discussed previously. I do want to distinguish, we've got two people here who may be injured. We'll call one the drunk and one the person who's the innocent victim. They are both victims, they are both entitled to statutory benefits, but the law changed a few years ago in relation to the drunk. If they've got a limit of say 0.1, they get a lesser percentage of their loss of wages. They get a lesser percentage if they're 1.5, they get nothing once they get over 0.2.
Martin, in this one here, the issue is whether they get medical expenses. The answer is yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they both do.
They both do. They're both accident victims. She will also have other entitlements, or the teenager will also have other entitlements to medical and like expenses, as I said, rehabilitation, ongoing medical expenses, and may be also entitled to loss of wages if they're a worker or they're an earner.
And the other party, if seriously injured, could sue.
Yes, the negligent, does drunk necessarily mean that you're negligent? I say to go a long way.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's time to go, I think. Right?
Well, I think it is. Time goes so fast on the PI show. Thank you so much for writing in every week, everybody. Next week, we're talking about rehabilitation after an injury with a special guest, Katrine Green. We're looking forward to meeting with her. Oh, and keep writing in, absolutely. thepishow.com. Please write in and stay tuned for next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Thank you.